All right, good morning, everybody. All right, go ahead and open your Bible to Joshua chapter 2. Joshua chapter 2. I'll give you a moment to turn there. Joshua chapter 2. There we go. All right, Joshua chapter 2. Of course, last week we looked at the miracle of the crossing of Jordan. So today we're going to go a little bit further to the miracle at Jericho. Of course, one of the most significant occurrences in the Old Testament, and especially the conquest of the land of Canaan. But we'll start where we did last week in chapter 2. We briefly went over with the declaration of a harlot. Now, of course, a harlot is what we today would call a prostitute, so a woman of ill repute. And yet, we see really part of the miracle here is what can happen when somebody has a change of heart. So looking at Rahab, this is the first time, of course, that we see her in Scripture, but we'll see her mentioned several times after this. So she was a harlot of Jericho. Now, of course, Jericho was not a city that followed after God. They had their own gods. And so Rahab was known here in the city. It says in verse 2, "And it was told the king of Jericho, saying, Behold, there came men in hither tonight of the children of Israel to search out the country. And the king of Jericho sent unto Rahab, saying, Bring forth the men that are come to thee, which are entered into thine house, for they be come to search out all the country." So we see that she was a harlot of Jericho, but we see also that she was a woman of faith. If we look in the book of Hebrews, chapter 11, Hebrews chapter 11. Now, what is Hebrews chapter 11? What is it known as? The faith chapter. Yes, and so we see here many, many individuals of great renown in Scripture. Abel, Enoch, Abraham, Noah, Isaac, Jacob, all of the patriarchs are listed here. And we see in verse 31, it says, "By faith the harlot Rahab perished not with them that believed not, when she had received the spies with peace." So we can see Rahab listed here in what we call the New Testament Hall of Faith, being noted here as one who perished not because of the faith that she had when she received the spies with peace. We can look in James chapter 2. James chapter 2 and verse 25. It says, likewise also was not Rahab the harlot justified by works when she had received the messengers and had sent them out another way? Now, this is a question, and we have to, in order for us to understand exactly what it's saying here, we have to look at it in context. It starts in verse 22 saying, seest thou how faith wrought with his works, speaking of Abraham, and by works was faith made perfect? The scripture was fulfilled, which saith, Abraham believed God, and it was imputed unto him for righteousness, and he was called the friend of God. Ye see then how that by works a man is justified, and not by faith only. Likewise also was not Rahab the harlot justified by works, and it goes from there. Now, just so that you're aware, as a side note, this is not talking about salvation through works when it says, was not Rahab the harlot justified by works, but this is talking about how that faith always manifests itself in our works. So if we have true faith, then it is going to be evident. And so the faith of Rahab was made evident when she received the messengers and sent them out another way. The fact that she believed God, or that she believed in God, and that manifested itself in her works is an evidence of her faith. And so it's interesting to note that always in Scripture is Rahab associated as Rahab the harlot. So we have to understand that the works that we do, the things that we do, follow us. The things that we do in this life, whether for good or for evil, they are associated with us as a person. However, even though Rahab is always referred to as Rahab the harlot, if we look at the accounts that we see of her in Scripture, we can see the blessing of a forgiven life, and we can see how that God will take somebody who is deep in sin and bring them up to be an instrument in a vessel that can be used for his honor and his glory. And so I don't think that Rahab would have begrudged the fact that this is attached to her name, because she would understand that the life that she lived was in the past, and that allowed, because of her position, that allowed for her and her heart of faith and her heart of belief to then bring the spies in and to be begat David the king. So we see that Rahab is then going from her position as a